Hi everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to be sharing my summer makeup routine. I like to do these videos at the beginning of every season and I switch up the products based on what I'm liking and just what I think works the best for a certain time of year. Right now, today is the first day of summer, so for me it is very, very, very hot. It's in the 90s, reaching close to 100 in South Carolina, so it's hot, and I switch up what I do on an everyday basis when it gets this hot outside. So that's what I'm going to be sharing today, the routine that I like, that's pretty quick and easy and a great everyday makeup look. If you're new here, my name is Blair. I do all kinds of beauty content here on YouTube. I hope you'll subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get into the makeup routine. All right, step one is definitely SPF. And it'll be one of the two of these. Madagascar Centella from Skin 1004, of course. And then I've also been enjoying this one, the N Beauty Project Mineral Sun Glow. This one does have a little bit of a tint to it. And some days, it just kind of depends on the day if I want to use SPF with a tint or not. This one is a very sheer tint, so it doesn't give you a ton of pigment or color. It gives just a little bit of something. I'm going to use the N Beauty Project one today. And this comes in two different tones. It comes medium dark and then fair medium. So I am applying this all over. And I do find this definitely gives your skin a little bit of a glow, but it's nowhere near as glowy as some of the other SPFs that are similar on the market. This one is a good amount of glow without being too much. Make sure I'm getting it under my eyes too. That's a place that I'm trying to be better about, making sure I get my SPF right here because we gotta protect this area. While I'm waiting on that to kind of set down, I'm just applying this Summer Fridays Lip Butter Balm. All right, one more thing I like to do, especially when it's hot outside, is I like to start with a spray of some kind of setting spray. So I'm going to use this one from Milk, but I typically use this one or the Charlotte Tilbury spray. I don't have one out here right now, so I'm going to use this. I've also been testing this out, the All Nighter from Urban Decay, but this is the new one that's supposed to be dewier because it has, I guess, a lot of hyaluronic acid in it, and it also smells like watermelon. So if you like that, then you might really like this. This does work in terms of making your makeup last like the original All Nighter, but this one makes your makeup very, very, very glowy. So I'm not going to use this today because we're using a lot of other products that are really glowy. So I think for me, that would probably be too much unless I was using things that are a little bit more on the matte side, or I'm just using more powders. So today I'm going to go in with this one. And I do like the Milk one because the sprayer is so fine. You don't feel like you're whacking yourself in the face with setting mist. So I do like that about the Milk one. And then I just give that a minute or two to kind of set down. All right, let's move into the makeup. I have fallen in love with a product that I kind of knew I was gonna fall in love with, and it's this one, the Chanel Le Beige Water Fresh Tint. If you saw my video a few weeks ago where I tried out a ton of new makeup, I got this recently. I've been dying to try it for the longest time, but in that video, I used it with their brush that it comes with. And a lot of you told me in the comments that I should use my hands. So I've been doing that, and you are 100% right. It works way better with your hands. So I've been doing between a pump and a half and 2 pumps. It just kind of depends. So this is about a pump and a half. But yes, it's like night and day with applying this way or applying it with a brush. It works way better with your hands, which typically I'm not a huge hands person when it comes to makeup, but with this product, it's definitely the best way. Oh, and you also have to really like work it in. You can't just like slap it on really quick. You have to like really massage it into your skin. It kind of reminds me of MAC Face and Body in that way. The more you kind of work it in, the better it looks, the more seamless it looks on your skin. But the days that I have worn this with these other products that I'm gonna wear today, it has worn really well on my skin, even though it's lightweight, it's light coverage. If you pair it with other things, it will last all day and it looks so pretty and natural. So there it is, all over my face. This is about a pump and a half of it, and it doesn't cover everything. Obviously, it's not meant to, but it just evens out your skin tone in the best way, and it looks like nothing on your skin. It just looks like your face, but just a little bit more even. The hype is real on this stuff, I have to say. All right, moving into color corrector. You know I don't skip this step ever. Doesn't matter what the season is. I'm not skipping color corrector. I kind of switch this up depending on the day, but I've kind of been back into this one lately, especially for the summertime, because this one is so creamy and very, very thin. This is the Sigma Color Correcting Duo in the shade light or light medium. So you can see it has two colors in it. It has a darker one and a lighter one. I use the darker one more. As you can see, that one is almost gone. I don't use the lighter color as much, but I like both. I'm gonna use this little A505 from BK Beauty. It's a little paddle brush because mine is kind of all around the edges over here and it's hard to get your finger over there to get product. But this formula from Sigma is really nice and it applies well with your finger or brush. But I'm using the darker side and I'm just focusing it right here where I have majority of the darkness. All right, then you can use your finger or a brush. I'm just gonna use a brush to press that in under my eyes. I like to let this formula in particular kind of sit under my eyes because it's a cream, so you don't really have to worry about it drying too quickly. And I think it just helps it kind of warm up under your eyes on your skin. This is the E72 from Sigma. All right, now we'll move into concealer. For concealing, since the base that we use, the Chanel Le Beige Water Fresh Tint, has very, very light coverage, I want to use a concealer that has medium to full coverage just where I need it. So I'm going to use, well, I switch this up depending on the day. I've been either using Kosas Revealer Concealer because I have a new shade in this that works well for me, which is 2.6C, but I also love Natasha Denona in N2. This, if you've been around my channel for any length of time, you've probably heard me talk about that. Or I will use Tower 28. Tower 28 is kind of similar to Kosas, but Tower 28 is a little bit more liquidy. This one's a little bit more creamy, I would say. And Natasha Denona is a little bit more on the matte side, not super matte, but more matte than those two. So it just kind of depends on what I'm going for. I think today I'm going to use Natasha Denona in the shade N2, and I'm going to add this just where I want more coverage that the Chanel Water Fresh Tint did not cover. A little bit on side of my nose because I get kind of red there. And I'm taking just a little bit of the Natasha Denona under my eyes, just a little, because this stuff really does spread. Okay, I like to let this concealer, or really any concealer, sit for, I don't know, a minute, 2 minutes before I start blending it, especially if you're trying to get more coverage in an area. That will really help it kind of thicken and start to dry down. So that's why I like doing that. But I'm using my 106 from BK Beauty and just blended that in to get a little bit more coverage here. But for under my eyes, I'm going to switch to this brush. This is the FO3 from Sigma, another one of my favorites. And I'm using this with this concealer because this brush is fluffy. And we didn't use much of that concealer. And it spreads a lot. It has a lot of coverage. So I like to use something like this that will really spread the product out instead of using something like this that will stamp the product in. So I'm just using this to feather that concealer out. This is my favorite method of applying makeup just for every day. Really doesn't matter what the season is. I like a lighter coverage base all over and then using a concealer that gives more coverage just where I need it. All right, moving on to bronzer. The bronzer that I use really isn't changing right now. I use this pretty much every day. And it's this, the Mario Bronzing Serum. I have two of them. I have light and light medium. I just kind of switch depending on the day. Kind of depends on if I have self-tan or not. I can really get away with either, to be honest. I'm going to use light medium today. But the reason I like this is because it sets down. It doesn't stay tacky and it blends like instantly. Truly, it is one of the easiest products I've ever used. I've never used anything quite like this before. I'm going to use the F1 brush from Makeup by Mario to blend this in, and see, it just blends like instantly. It's crazy. And because it's so thin and watery, it doesn't feel like you've put a really thick layer of something on your skin. That's kind of the theme of this whole makeup, especially in summer, anytime when it's hot out. The smaller amount or the less product you can apply, the better, typically. So something like this is really ideal because it's so thin. It's like a watery texture. And it sets down. So I'm not kidding when I tell you this stuff, once you apply it, it doesn't move, it stays. It's different from his Skin Enhancer because that product is also extremely easy to use, but that is not a watery texture at all. That's a very slippy, balmy texture. It has a lot of emollients to it, so very easy to use, but it's not something that sets down on your face like this does. And because it's so thin and watery, it just looks really nice and natural on the skin. It doesn't look like a ton of makeup all over your face, which is what I like all the time, but particularly in the summertime when you're outside and the sun is like shining on you, the more makeup you have on, the more you're gonna be able to see it in the direct sunlight, you know? Bringing some down my neck and jawline as well. All right, moving on to blush. I can't stop using these. I made an Instagram video about them and I said that I truly can't stop using them, and that is true, I cannot. I just keep using these. Yes, they are very glossy and dewy. I should tell you what it is. It's the Haus Labs Color Fuse Glossy Lip and Cheeks. I like both shades. So I have shade Glossy Hibiscus and Glossy Pomelo. So this is Hibiscus, that's Pomelo. I love them both, but we're gonna apply a little bit of both shades because I can't just apply one. And I'm gonna get mine off the back of my hand because I don't want to risk moving anything around that we've already laid down. And I'm just stamping this on with that same brush that we used for the Mario product. And I'm keeping the Hibiscus shade kind of back here. Such a pretty color. Truly, this one, the Hibiscus shade, if I could design my own color of a blush, it would be very similar to that. I love that tone. Now I'm taking the lighter one, which is Glassy Pomelo. It's just lighter and a little bit brighter. And I'm taking that just right here kind of closer to the front of my cheek. And obviously, if you don't like cream blush, or you have really oily skin, or you prefer powder blush, you could definitely skip this and just do the powder. But I personally like the glossy finish, but we are going to use a powder blush in a minute. I love these from Haus Labs because they're not an overwhelming amount of color, but you can keep kind of building them up if you want. Or you can apply them really, really sheerly and get just a small amount of pigment, which I like. I like blushes that you can kind of customize like that, and they're not intense pigment right off the bat, and that's what you get with these. Now I'm just taking what's left on my hand, or not my hand, what's left on the brush, and just kind of going over the bridge of my nose. There's not much left. All right, now we need some powder because we got a lot of glow, a lot of creams and liquids on my face. So I have a new loose setting powder that I love, and it's this one from Makeup Forever. This is their HD Skin setting powder, and it's in the shade Corrective Rose. So I'm not sure why, but this shade in this powder is kind of hard to find. I had to order mine directly from the Makeup Forever website. But they have this same powder on Sephora. They just don't have the color correcting shades. They have the skin tone shades. I don't know why, but this is the powder that I've been loving. So I'm going to use this brush. This is the F3 from Mario, and I'm taking the larger side. You can do the whole puff thing if you want. I prefer doing it this way. So I kind of tap off the excess, and then I go in here on the side of my nose, kind of over on this part of my cheek, and a little bit under my eyes, but not a ton. And then go back here to the side of my nose. Do you see the difference between that and that? This powder is so nice. I saw one of my favorite makeup artists, Kellyanne, on Instagram. She goes by Makeup XKA. I talked about her many times before, but she was talking about how this powder is like a mixture between the Givenchy powder, the one that everyone loves, and the Fenty Invisimatte, which I've used that one as well. And the Invisimatte is truly that. Like, it doesn't look like you've applied powder. It's so thin, it's finely milled, but it's a white color or a translucent color, whereas this one has a little bit more of like a beigey pink undertone. And it mattifies really well, but it does not look heavy. I mean, it's truly like undetectable, and I don't know how, but it is. This formula is really good. Now I'm kind of going right here, right under that blush and bronzer. And then I'll just take whatever is left and kind of go over this area. And this powder is nice too because you can close it off. So you can close this, or actually I just opened it, but you can turn it this way and completely close it. And it does come with this big puff, and you get a lot of powder in here. So this would last you a really long time. It is a more expensive powder. It's not as expensive as the Givenchy one. I think it's like $44 maybe, somewhere around there, but you do get a lot of product in here. All right, now I am gonna take a little bit of powder blush. I'm gonna use these, the Kosas blushes in the shade Blissed and Dreamland. Dreamland is more bronzy, Blissed is more of a peachy pink, and I'm getting just a little bit of both colors, like not much. And I'm just kind of lightly going over it, going over my cheeks with this. And these tones are very similar to those Haus Labs tones, so they work really well over the top, and it just kind of sets everything in place. These are also on the glowier side, so they pair really well with those Haus Labs blushes. And I'm using this Morphe A22 brush because it's super fluffy, and I don't want a lot of product. Now we will spray again. So I'm shaking my spray. All right, now moving into brows. This kind of depends on the day. If I don't have very much time, then I would probably just use a brow pencil. If I do have a little more time, I'm still using my brow powder from Anastasia because this is just how I like my brows to look if I have the time. It takes me a little bit longer because I have to get a brush and all that, but in the grand scheme of things, it really doesn't take that long. And I just kind of mix the two shades of medium brown. So there's a lighter one and a darker one. For most of my brow, I just kind of dip into both shades. And then in the very front, I just use the lighter color. We'll probably just speed through majority of this because those of you that watch my videos all the time have seen me do this many times. But I just love the way this looks. And I use this same brush every time I do this. This is the E75 from Sigma. It's their angled brow brush. And then I just use whatever brow gel I have out to set them in place. This is the Milk Lamination Brow Gel. All right, moving on to eyes. Typically, especially when it's hot though, I don't wear a ton on my eyes. I like to keep it very minimal and natural looking for every day. So this is the combo that I've been doing. This from Danessa Myricks. This is the Color Fix in the shade Nude Number 3. This, if you saw one of my haul videos from a few weeks ago, I got this because I saw Nikki LaRose using this on Alley lines. But you need like the smallest bit of this product, so I'm getting it on the back of my hand first. But the reason I'm using this is because it's very thin and lightweight, number one, so it doesn't feel like thick or goopy or anything on your eyes, but these are like waterproof. Once I set down, they're there. So if it's hot, that is ideal. So I'm putting this all over, all the way up. And these come in a ton of different shades. This one is just like slightly deeper than my skin tone, but they come in all different shades. They really do spread though, so you do not need a lot. Like I barely put any on the back of my hand. So if you need a good base for eyeshadow, or you just want to apply something that you know is gonna stay all day, this will do that with very little product. All right, and then step 2 is I will take the Mario product and the same brush that I used for the Danessa Myricks product, and I will put this in my crease. And this is the shade Light Medium, so this one is a little bit deeper than the Danessa Myricks color. So it adds just a little something, and again, it's really watery, really thin, so it doesn't feel like a lot. And I'm just grabbing it directly from the applicator, and I'm kind of pulling it out too, so it just kind of gradually fades out on the edges. And then I'm using whatever is left over on the brush and going under my eyes. And that's really it for eyes. Sometimes I'll take like a shimmery shadow and put that on top. I'm not gonna do that today, but I do that sometimes. But I am gonna line my waterline. I'm gonna use the Victoria Beckham Satin Kajal liner, and I'm using the shade Cocoa, which is the deep brown. So I'm mainly focusing on the outer half because that's really where I want the most of that depth that you get. And then sometimes, not every day, I'll take a another liner, a lighter one. So this is Cinnamon from Victoria Beckham. And I'll just add a little bit of this to the top lash line, but I'm talking like just a tiny, tiny little bit. And then I will take a small little angled brush. This is the 208 from BK Beauty, and just take the very edge of that product and just kind of pull it out a little bit. But like I said, if I don't have time, I wouldn't do this because this takes me a few more minutes, but I figured I'll do it for the video. And then it just kind of depends on what mascara I have out. Sometimes I'll try to use a tubing mascara if it's really hot. So I guess we will do that today. I'm going to use the e.l.f. Lash Extender Mascara in the brown color. I really like brown for everyday. All right, finally for lips, these new lip liners from Maybelline are so good and they are very long lasting. These are the lifter liners and this one is in the shade On It. It's a really nice nude. And then I am going to use our blushes again from Haus Labs. So I'm taking Glassy Pomelo, and then I'm doing Glassy Hibiscus all over, I'm sorry. Now Glassy Pomelo. Just like right in the center. Yes, these will wear off on my lips because they're balmy and glossy. That's just kind of the way it is. I like a glossier lip, so that doesn't bother me, but yes, they do wear off. I don't mind touching them up. And then sometimes I put a little bit of gloss on top. I've really been liking this one from Haus Labs. This is the pH Hybrid Lip Glaze in Macaron. Then before we finish up, I will also just go in one more time with this little powder puff that comes with the Makeup Forever powder, or you could just use a puff that you have. But I'm taking what's left in the cap right here, which is not a ton, and I'm kind of rolling the sponge and I'm just tapping a little bit more right here, like right on the side of my nose, and then very lightly under the eyes or anywhere else that looks a little bit shiny still. And then setting spray one more time. All right, that is everything. I hope you enjoyed seeing my updated summer makeup routine. Obviously, if you like less glowy products, you could use more powders, not as many creams as I used, but I do find that I can wear these things as long as I apply them in this way with setting spray and powder and just sheer layers. So that's how I like to do it, but you could definitely go in with powder bronzer or powder blush and not do as many of the glowy products if you have an oilier skin type than me. And obviously some days I don't do all of these steps, but if I'm going to do my true makeup routine for every day and I want to go all out, this is kind of the routine that I would do. But sometimes, you know, I don't do the eyeliner or I don't do the powder blush and, you know, a few of the extra steps. It just kind of depends on the day. But I hope you enjoyed. If you're new, I hope you'll subscribe. All the products will be linked below for you and in YouTube shopping up on the screen as well. Also, make sure you're following me over on Instagram at simply.blair and TikTok simply.blair1, and I will see you again very soon. Remember, simply be you. Bye.